ones that's here tonight is Grace Fall, my wife Luella Trosper, giving a report from Maury Ems, Jack Wagner, Calvin Fall,
Gilbert Leising.
Gilbert Leising, and his wife
Agnes.
Agnes. So at that, I'm gonna let you guys just go ahead and tell about the district. You started out a good while ago.
Well, Lou is gonna read this one.
Okay.
Shall I start now?
Yeah.
Morris Ems had written this quite a bit last time, and so this time he's talking about two different ice houses that were in town. And one was about 5 blocks west of Crawford's repair shop on a vacant lot, and it was on the south side of the street. The other was near or east of the present post office, and the post office was on the west side of Nebraska Avenue at that time. The blocks, you can interrupt me anytime.
Did he say
If
who
you don't
owned those?
agree. No, he didn't.
Oh.
Well, he might have down here a little bit.
Do you remember Agnes?
Well, it's Greenie, wasn't it, in the old post office?
On the west side, yeah.
Mhm.
We were married way then.
Oh.
Otherwise, I don't know anything about history here.
Okay, all right.
And Maury said the blocks of ice came from the creek, river, or ponds in the winter, or cold weather while being frozen solid. The ice was sawed or cut into blocks and laid on a wagon. And the chunks were cut into pieces of various sizes and weight, and it was packed on a straw covering in the floor of the wagon or truck. After being hauled, after being loaded, and the top and sides were covered with and packed with straw, which kept the ice from melting.
No, we had an ice house.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did that.
We did too.
my dad told us
My
about
dad did
doing
too.
it too. And the ice was then taken up to the ice house, where it was unloaded and packed in the basement on a layer of straw, top, bottom, and sides. The ice was removed a little at a time for use in summer or warm weather. And he said the iceman, George Horton, delivered ice to people on a route at certain times to people who had an ice box on their porch or wherever they wanted to have it. He used a carrier clamp, ice pick, and a saw to cut the chunks off to fit in the ice boxes. It was a lot of hard work to harvest the ice, store it so it wouldn't melt, take it out of the storage, and deliver it like a newspaper. The commercial hotel was south of Crawford's repair. It was a wood building, no elevators, a chicken house, and a wire fence. And it said Mother Jones was owner and operator. She served home-style meals at noon, mostly to the railroad crews.
They served
And that was
family
located-
style.
Yeah, family style.
That was located where the medical clinic is now.
Oh, is
More or
that,
less in there.
was that,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Because we had a man that worked for us, and he stayed there.
Oh,
And that is, we were first married, but he worked for my dad. $1 a day and meals.
oh,
$1 a day.
Yeah.
that was pretty good wages
Wow.
though, really.
Oh, yeah. And of course, board grew.
Yeah.
Yes.
Except on Saturday, he went and stayed at the motel, Mrs. Jones.
Which Mrs. Jones was that? Anybody?
Different.
Oh, just different, okay.
relation.
No relation, okay.
Because Maury said they just called her Mother Jones.
Oh,
I'll tell you one more thing. Mr. and Mrs. Joe Einstein used to have relatives come from Chicago. They had a colored man as a driver.
Oh.
He stayed at the hotel,
wow.
and he used to sit outside evenings passing the time, and people would drive by just to see a colored man.
Well, sure, I bet they were far between. That is good, isn't it?
Yes.
Bob Elam told me that.
Yeah.
And he said across the street east of the Crawford Repair was a blacksmith shop, owned and operated by Ray Swartzfigure.
No,
Yeah.
Mhm.
was the guy that worked for us, Schwartzberger, was it?
don't know.
Yeah, he was
I don't remember his
Or-
name.
horrible sports figure.
I've heard that name. Mhm.
He would pick up his coal bucket once a day and head north down Nebraska Avenue, 1 block to the Midwest Cafe, where it was time for a Coke and heat in the winter. Next ray and the coal bucket in hand, he went west to the lumber yard and the coal bins where he filled his coal bucket, and then back to his shop to finish the day. The coal was used to heat iron to bend or shape it to fit. Later, Gus Martin had his shop for many years, or had this shop for many years, and Jack,
Yeah. Thought we shot.
Jack Snyder owned a concrete block building west of Marvin Crawford's repair shop. He made cement concrete blocks in the building for many years. He had a small cement mixer for making the blocks, and for foundations, walls, floors, and so on.
What was his name?
Jack Snyder.
Yeah, Jack
Jack
Snyder.
And sidewalks.
Yeah,
He made
I'm coming to
those.
that one, yeah. He said his name is engraved in a lot of the sidewalks and driveways and so on. And he lived along the west side of the highway going north out of town. Jap was the boss on the rock building in the west edge of the city park. We were kinda talking about that last
No,
time, about
that's
that
it.
rock.
The
No,
amphitheater
that's
thing?
Baxter House up here, that one next to Pruitt on the way out of town,
Was that where he lived? Oh,
up here.
yeah,
Hmm.
but
But he made the cement block that, or
The
the
rock.
amphitheater in the
No,
park
no.
right now?
That was a,
I don't know.
no, Grace.
Oh, then I,
That must have been
No.
later.
yeah, he said that he was the boss on that building, and he said that it was a national youth project that built that.
That amphitheater? No, that was
Or maybe it's a
with the
different
guys
one.
over at Beaver City.
Huh,
They were the ones that come over and built that.
okay, well, maybe
maybe
he
there's.
didn't remember that.
I think there's another building you're talking about there.
There might be.
Well, didn't you say there was another one? Didn't you say there was another one, another cement building
A rock building, it
or
was,
rock? What is
it
it?
was made out of rocks, that's what he said, but,
Do you
I,
remember?
could be, I don't remember that.
yeah. Cause there are a lot of rocks used in different things, like the fountains and stuff like that
Yeah.
there, but, so. And then he had said that the rock was taken from land south of Holbrook and Cambridge, more like bluffs, and he said the rock was in layers, removed by hard work, dynamite, sledgehammers, and more hard work. So that was all he had then.
That's interesting.
And that black man that you mentioned reminded me of that there was a man in McCook that used to have a monkey, and he played the violin, I
Yeah.
think he was
Oh, yeah.
blind, you know.
Yeah.
I used to just be fascinated by
Yeah.
him when we'd go to McCook,
Yeah.
and my sisters don't even remember it, they said they never saw anything like that, you know.
They don't believe you.
But they were right there, this one was right with me all the time, so she had
I mean, that used to be with McCook, is where you go for sneak day. For the seniors.
Yeah, sure. That was a long ways.
We got to Lincoln, I think,
Oh, we went to Beaver City.
That was a long way.
yeah.
What did you do in Beaver City, Kim?
Roller skated.
That's right,
Yeah,
that's right. They did have a nice rink over there, didn't they?
they had one in every town. They have one in Elwood too.
Did they?
Well, didn't they have one west of town? Right,
Cambridge,
south of.
around Cambridge, wasn't there something?
I was thinking south of,
I don't
Dodge
know
Deer.
that.
I'm not sure.
Well, they used to roller skate, and when I was in high school, I think down here where Schiffelbein has his,
Yeah, that's true. That was after the Earl
Yeah.
War too, yeah.
Right. Jack, you're right. They used to roller skate up there by that old, what I like to that,
Yeah,
the water, spring water.
I think roller skating and ice skating were both real popular then,
Oh,
weren't they?
very, yes.
But now I don't hear much about doing that.
Oh, heavens. That old pond down there south of, well, Harriet Moose still owns the darn thing, but after the flood, there's a great big pond down there on that thing. Heaven, that's where the kids from Arapahoe met and played hockey.
Yeah.
Nice, huh?
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to be a big pond.
Yes,
Big.
big pond.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was right south of, well, of course, Harder Roads, or prior to that, it was, I forget who it was.
Well, they used to cut ice, Dory talks about cutting ice. They cut ice down with the hasty ponds. Smell the hasty?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Of course. 35
My
foot
dad
took
cut
that
ice
out.
out of the
Yes.
Muddy Creek. It's a big, deep creek.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is now, or what?
Always was, and I suppose it still is. High banks. Yeah, it's a deep creek.
Mhm. It's got a lot of water in it now, I think.
I don't know, I haven't been down to it in years,
too.
but it always had water.
Mhm.
It had springs and it always had.
Jack, he was telling a good, interesting story when we first started here. Do you wanna tell that over?
Which one was that?
Well, about, when we first got here, about the cars and stuff like that.
Your folks, your dad,
Oh. Yeah, we lived at Campbell till 1931. But between 1920 and 1930, we used to come out to the farm in Holbrook often. And they had just recently upgraded, they called it the DLD, Denver Lincoln.
It's good for us.
No, what was it?
it was DLD, I know that, Jack.
Yeah, but anyway, and it was gravel. Well, one time we came out after a rain and Dad had a big boxcar type Dodge.
Yeah.
Well, we went in the ditch.
Imagine that.
And I remember I was sleeping on the back seat and I fell to the floor. But other times from Camel, and could not have been much over 10 years old. See, Camel is directly east, and we would go to Oxford, Bascott, and straight on there. And when we came out, and like I said, I wasn't over 10 years old, Dad would get in the back seat and sleep, and I would drive. It was
Wow.
a Model A Ford, and we'd put a block under the seat to raise it up for me.
And you never had an accident, probably.
No?
That was before all the rules and regulations.
Oh, yes, oh,
There
yes.
must not been any patrolmen.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
So your dad was a veterinarian and moved from Campbell
yes,
to Holbrook,
yes.
and was he a veterinarian at the home there? or-
Partially, he did some, and he also did the farming,
Oh,
yeah.
did he, help Pete Phillipson, or?
They
were
worked
they-
together, yeah.
Okay, but was Pete there at that time?
Oh, yes, oh, yes. Yeah. And he had, Pete had a driver and an assistant, Earl Remington,
Oh, mm-hmm.
and later it was Ernest Klein
Yeah.
helped him. And, yeah, and
Should I tell you a story about Doc Pete and Bob Bilton? Well, we always used to service old Doc's car, and when it was over, we'd take it back home to him. And most anyway, Doc we'd talk a little bit, and then I'd come back home. That day we were there, and Bob Bilton walked in and ignored me and everything, just walked up and said, "Doc Pete, there's some land down there that's right next to me, said, I'd like to own. Doc said, write the check. Bob just walked right back out.
Yeah.
Didn't even ask him how much, just write the check. Oh, boy, that's the fastest money I ever saw in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Pete, you know, did a lot of good over the years yet. And his wife was Christensen,
Oh,
a
yes.
sister of Mrs. Scott Moring.
Okay.
Did Hugh Reeser live with your family or something at one time?
Hugh was my aunt's stepson.
Yeah.
Okay, there was 3 Missourians came to Holbrook, and they all married girls up there. One married my aunt, Wagner, one married a Moring, that was Jim Scott, and one married Curry, Sam Curry.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but how those 3 guys from Missouri came to Holbrook and picked
Picked out
3
the women.
gals like that. And now this man that married my aunt had 3 boys. His wife had died.
Well, there's a Reeser, Hugh Reeser,
That was one of them. He married Mabel.
Mabel,
Mabel,
my first
Lucky.
wife's
Yeah.
aunt.
Now Mabel's still living, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
She's not in very good health.
Is that right?
She's out, she's still in California.
Yeah. Yeah, she's in Pomona. Yeah.
Yeah, she's living with her grandson.
Is she?
Yeah.
Now, I email with a Hugh's nephew, his brother's boy.
Yeah.
And we visited them once in, down in Alabama,
I see.
Reeser. But,
Well, years ago, when they had the sale barn up to Cambridge, I think it was your dad was vaccinating hogs
yeah,
at the sale barn. I helped him
yeah,
vaccinate pigs.
yeah. I have a cane, a wooden cane that the Cambridge sale barn gave him when he quit servicing the barn. Yeah. But anyway, when we came to the farm, well, prior to this, before Dad took over the farm, his father died in '24. And this Reeser and my aunt, they lived there with these 3 boys. And they lived there until we moved out in 1931. But Grandpa Wagner always fed a lot of cattle. And one time, he shipped 2 carloads to Omaha. And he was a poor dresser. He always wore a Scotch cap and a terrible coat. Anyway, in Omaha, they picked him up for vagrancy.
Oh,
And he let them take him to the police station. Then he pulls out a check for 2 carloads of cattle. Now, I'll tell you, this has always been, but I'll tell you who verified that was Jeanette Crewmate.
Oh,
Because her Uncle Walt was, used to go with Grandpa to Omaha.
oh, okay.
And they knew, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And I have a picture, it's a pretty good, of the cattle Grandpa had on feed. And it's taken in Omaha with Reeser and Dad and Bob Reeser sitting on the fence.
Yeah, got it.
Your dad sold corn to him,
Yeah, my dad knew him.
all corn
Yeah.
with
He-
a wagon and 2 wheels.
We lived,
horses.
what, 25 miles from there?
Yeah.
With a horse and wagon, he'd bring corn down
Yeah.
Your dad did?
to those, there was a Scott Mooring that had cattle
Yeah.
too. He delivered to him too.
Must have been good corn, go that far away to get it.
He probably didn't have that much, you know,
I'll tell
but he
you,
didn't have a semi.
No.
it was shucked by hand.
Yes, so we didn't have too much.
And if they fed the darn corn ears, we had to go to the pig pen and pick up the
Yeah.
cobs
Put them in the stove.
to burn in the kitchen stove.
I did that.
Yeah.
That made
Oh,
good
yeah.
stew. Oh, gosh. Kids have to do that today, they would
Oh,
just
wouldn't they
die.
though? It might help some of them.
I think so. Mhm.
But I'll tell you, those wet cobs sure were heavy. A bushel basket of those
Yeah.
things, loaded with all the good stuff on it.
Yeah. Oh, heck.
Well, someone else go ahead now.
Well, Gilbert too.
Your dad sold cattle in, where, Kansas City?
Yeah, well, my dad came from Germany.
Who was your dad?
My dad was Paul,
Paul. okay.
Paul,
All right.
and my granddad was Dietrich Leising,
Oh, okay.
and my dad came from Germany when he was 12 years old. He came over by himself,
Wow.
and his dad came later on.
Oh, gee.
And my dad was on the
Those kids
ship
really
coming
wait.
over for about 2 weeks.
Oh, gosh.
And, you know,
Sicker than a dog, I suppose.
oh yeah, sicker than a dog.
And it's hard to believe, because a lot of people did that, didn't they? The kids had come over by
I
themselves.
think the reason
Oh,
was on account of the war.
he doesn't know,
He had
but
been
I
a-
just
inter-
wonder if there
he had
wasn't
been
a
a-
relative or something.
Ready for the war in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
so his dad shipped him out.
Good for him.
And part of the family was born and raised in Germany, and part of the family was raised in the United States. And went to Missouri, that's where they started, it seemed like. He had friends in Missouri, I don't know why, I still haven't got that in my head straight. But he went to Missouri, my dad did, my dad did. And he worked didn't know English language,
No.
and he worked in a grocery store, picked that rotten apples out of the basket. And everybody asked him something, he'd say, I don't know. He learned one word, I don't know.
That's a good way to.
That was
do
a good one.
Very smart.
Now
then
you
he-
could listen.
Then my granddad came over. He bought this, well, the land where Tom's living now, well, the land, not where he's living, but where he's at, apartment. My granddad bought that in, I'm not sure, but it was in
1800s, wasn't
1886 or somewhere in there.
Mhm.
He homesteaded it.
Yeah,
There
no,
was
I
a
didn't
house.
homestead it.
He bought it.
He bought it from the people from Illinois that owned it,
I see.
and, they bought it from the railroad, from the railroad. See, the railroad track runs through there, and the railroad, at that time, owned quite a bit of land.
Yes.
I don't know why,
it? Yeah, I think they did.
but these
Well, the
people from
railroad
Illinois
came first
sold it,
before settlers.
and he bought this land, my granddad did. And then, my dad got married in 1902. He was at home there, he got married in 1902. And then he moved to a farm, it was on St. Matthew on Muddy Creek. But the guy by the name of Dempsey, I think his name was, he lived there 15 years, I think. No, 13 years. Anyway, my two oldest brothers were born up there.
Mhm.
No, but three of my brothers were. Well, I'm not so sure about them. I was born down here by the river. 1960. And he moved there in 1915, I think. Anyway, in 1915, the river was out quite a few times, but the river was just a stream then. When he moved up on St. Matthew, that Muddy Creek, he said you could cross that Muddy Creek any place. And when he left there, 13 years later, there was only one place you could cross it. Cattle and horses, because it got deeper and deeper.
Really?
Erosion. And then when he moved down there, that's because on 35 flood, he was down there when I was born in 16, and it was my first year out of high school. Why, that's when the flood was. And they said you had to move out of there. Well, I thought that was impossible.
Yeah, I'm
It was
sure.
impossible.
Uh-huh.
But we didn't. We were out in the water,
Yeah, but you didn't tell how you got there.
and my brother was living where Urban Warner's living now. My brother was living. Paul was living there then.
Okay.
It was Paul E. and Paul H. My dad was Paul H. and he was Paul E.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, my dad thought, oh, it was just, high water, high water. He went to bed that night.
Oh.
And my brother Paul and his wife, my mother was kind of alarmed. She said, you better come to our place. That creek runs, there's a creek runs through there, from where the schoolhouse is through there, there's a creek runs there, and it runs into the river. You better come over to our place because it'll be safer. So he came over with a wagon and mules. And Darlene and Annabelle. One was 5, the other one was just a year old, I think, Darlene. In the wagon. And when he came over, why, he says to Dad, he said, you ain't gonna stay here all night, are you? Well, Dad said, let's get out of here. The more wants to go, we go south, and we
Get up the main road.
and we put the car behind the wagon, and put the kids in the wagon, and the family in the wagon, in the car, and we were supposed to hold the lantern so we could see where we was going. Our brother was driving the
A
mules,
lantern.
and we didn't anymore leave the place, and we were in water.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
We got out there, the water was going through the car, and
Oh my.
underneath the box, mules stopped.
Oh, yeah. They were smart.
Yeah.
No, they were smart.
Uh-huh.
The brother said they're stuck, they can't pull it no more. Well, Dad said, let's leave the car sitting, all get in the wagon. About that time, the mules started.
Yeah.
Oh.
They took us back to where it was high ground.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it.
You
They
went
did.
to that
Right.
barn, there
Yeah.
was a barn on that ground.
That was a kind of a knoll through there where the barn is, and the house set too.
Still is that way.
But the biggest trouble was that the water stayed up so high for several days that the river bank came towards the house.
Oh.
That's the reason we had to move out of there, because it was going to take the house
Oh, yeah.
into
Yeah.
the river.
Today.
Today it's a mile
the
away.
basement is there yet, but it's,
But the house
Even
is
up.
on half gone into the river bank.
Mhm.
Well, that was quite an experience.
That was a close call.
well, the mules saved their lives.
That's
Yeah.
right.
If they'd have gone out a few more feet, they'd just.
We didn't know where they was going when they started up again.
It
They circled
ran-
around and somehow or another they
Well,
must have knew where it
They
was.
knew where they belonged,
higher
and they
ground, I
went back to the
guess.
barn.
Mhm.
Of course, we had horses, cattle in the pastures. They all came up through the place.
They were.
They
in
circled
the
around there.
Did you lose a lot of livestock and stuff?
Oh yeah, we had cattle in the pastures down there.
Some of them probably.
What was there, all was on the hill, what was alive. Some of it was gone. You never did find them. But
That was a terrible experience, wasn't it?
oh yeah.
Gracious. There's a house that sits down the road from where we used to live. And you could see on the woodwork how high it had been. boy.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, that house isn't there anymore, they put a different house in. But they said
That's
you
where
could
Dean
just,
McCoy
just see how high the water had been in that
In
house.
that house, they were upstairs.
Things were floating
That
over
was-
the
that
bed.
was Bill Martin's, what it was.
Yeah, Bill Martin's lived there.
Maybe you know Bill Martin.
Yeah,
Yes.
she gave piano
They
lessons.
were living there at that time.
Yes, I know who you mean.
They were upstairs,
Yeah, it's a two-story house it was.
and, some Highland was living on down the road a ways, and they followed the fence line, I guess, and they got over to, Bill Martin's finally.
Oh, they did.
And, the next morning, Dad looked out of the window upstairs, and he said all he could see was water clear to the bluffs.
That's what that book, From Bluff to Bluff.
Mhm. And as it grew, went on further toward Edison, Oxford, boy, it was just awful, from what I read. Houses were floated.
Oh, yeah.
People were on the roofs and
Charlie Hasty down in there lost his
a
house.
lot of them lost their lives.
And, you know, where the ice plant was down here, the mill,
Mhm.
that was all gone.
Well,
And,
the Remingtons, right south of where Burton's lived,
yeah,
they lost their house.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the boys just barely escaped, two of
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Well, there was
There was some boys
some
down
of
here
them hanging
from
on the
Alva.
bridges over here, I think.
Was that in
Yeah, but
35?
I thought
Hayes,
Yeah, that was 35.
I was thinking,
Hayes was one of them that tried to
Yeah.
go hand over hand on those wires,
yeah, I believe it was.
and then he finally dropped and he drowned.
Yeah,
There was some that lost their life. There was a mystery.
How many lost their lives in the, from around here in the 35 flood?
Oh, gosh.
well, what was so funny about it
I
was
don't
that
know for sure, I don't know, but.
it started already in the afternoon. And I went down, we had a kind of a pasture like, went down the hill ways, and then it was to the river. And I went down there and I set a stake. The water was out of the banks. I set a stake, and then I come back, my stake was gone.
Oh, yeah.
So I set another stake, come back, and that was gone. The
Yeah.
water was
Oh,
coming
yeah.
up that
I
fast.
was telling you something.
I did,
Was this just from rain?
not here,
I mean, no, but up
North.
there.
It must have been.
Muddy Creek,
Medicine, I know
Muddy Creek,
Cambridge had a
Elk
lot of
Creek, and
damage, it was in their
Deer
houses,
Creek, and
I
all
think,
these-
in town.
All the creeks.
and the Frenchman, and all that were up.
Well, didn't the
Well-
rain start out in Colorado where the
Yeah.
flood really started?
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
did, I know in
All
that
came
book,
together.
it said it had rained, oh my, 7, 8 inches, I
Yeah.
think, in some places up there.
Now the river was dry, you know. And they was preaching, no conservation, no more conservation. We want water in the river.
And after
Can't
the
win.
We
flood,
don't want it in the
got
ponds, we want it in the river. That's Kansas for you.
Yeah, and then after the rains, why, they said you had to have conservation.
Oh,
They
Well,
can't make up their mind.
At that time, there was no dams.
No,
And there was no,
terraces.
terraces.
No.
Yeah,
No, that's the whole thing.
yeah.
That's because I was telling you about, when Dad first moved up there, he could cross the Muddy Creek any place.
Yeah,
The last
Yeah.
last year he was there, you couldn't only one place you could cross.
Yeah.
Erosion.
yeah.
So he was gonna take care of that erosion. Now we took care of the erosion, now they don't, now we got too much conservation.
Yeah.
We just can't get it right,
No,
can we?
you can't get it right.
Well,
Terry Bratt told him about that flood, you know, he heard about it, they told him it was coming. Well, he couldn't, he walked down there, down the road, the old highway. He got down there and saw it coming. And I remember he always told this, just as fast as he could walk, he was on his feet every step, till he got right up the house, and it come up to the basement of the house. Then it was safe.
Well, it rose that fast, I know,
Now,
because,
where did Carrie Bratt live?
Right at the base of the hill out here.
yeah,
No.
where
about Alan McCoy's
Yeah, well, Alan,
Well.
only Alan's house is up a little higher,
Yeah.
theirs is
Yeah.
lower,
Yeah.
where they live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember them.
Because when my brother
They
came
would've
over
been
with the
there.
mules, he must have came that way, coming from the south, and there was some water there then, but when finally got ready to go, there was water there already.
Oh, it rose fast, they said.
So what was so funny, you know, it was so dry at 34, 33, 33 and 34 was so dry. And all that field to the south is kind of sandy, and it blowed dirt, and piled up dirt against the yard fence, 3-4 feet of dirt.
Oh,
And Dad took that fence all out, and he was gonna take the horses, slip the dirt away, and the flood came, he didn't have to.
oh, boy, there was,
Well, anyway, this house, they moved the house, they cut the house in two. Because the original house is 2-story, it's got bricks walls, and it was heavy. They had to cut it in two, because the brick house with 2 stories was the original house of Dietrich Leising.
oh,
And then my dad added 2 rooms. So they cut it in two here. Well, then when we got it, we added something to it too yet.
Not really, we just rearranged it.
Now we moved it up to the road
Have
there,
room.
and Tom's still living in it,
Oh.
and they added some more stuff to it.
Now, is that Dietrich's, Leising's house originally, the one
Yeah,
that Tom's in?
yeah.
Yes.
The-
It
The
is?
the-
2-story part of it.
The two-story
The
part
two-story part of
is
it.
his original
That's wonderful.
house. It had 2 rooms evidently on the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and then 2 upstairs.
And it stayed together all these years.
Yeah.
Where's this located at?
Right along the road,
Well, you
a
go,
mile.
Go
the
south.
first, you
I
take
think
the
I'll-
first road across the river bridge
Yeah.
and east, right next to the road.
About a mile, isn't it, from the
About a
highway?
mile there, right next to the road.
It's right along next to the road.
it's a high place right there.
Yeah, he put it on a hill.
I think he was smart.
Boy, the wind blows there. I bet it does. It does. I know that. If it
Well,
was so
that's-
windy, I'd get to town, it wasn't blowing. It was sure blowing there.
Is it south of the road or?
North.
It's east
North
of
of
the
the road.
highway.
East of the, east of the highway.
You know where the Isaac Walton
And
building
it's
is?
north of the road
Keep
going east.
Okay.
And it's still the 2 stories are there, of course, it's,
Did you ever see those Bachman walking to school?
Lockwood's?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Raymond and Chet used to tell me like, they always liked it when it got real cold. Then he wouldn't have to go clear around by the river bridge. They could go down, walk across the river and go to school here in town.
Well, I did too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. When the river froze over, I walked across. Otherwise I rode a horse. I didn't drive a car.
You know, maybe the kids nowadays would kinda like that, if they could ride a horse.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it'd be a novelty now.
I'll
Yeah.
say.
Where'd you leave the horse?
Over to my aunt, Mrs. Annie
Sarah
Hartman
Barr?
here in town.
Who?
This is Anna Hartman.
Oh, yes. I know, right over here by the church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Still there.
her husband built that Wagner store.
Yeah,
That's that.
you know, this Roger Aaron's, his mother was a Hartman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Aaron's. Do you
Yeah.
still hear from him?
Yes, I email him all the time. Yeah.
Well, now, she had five daughters. Which one is this, you know?
Well, the name is
I
Aaron.
did it one time, but I don't remember now.
Well, Alfredo was the oldest one, then it was Louise.
He was Alfredo Toll.
I think it's rather Louise. It was his mother,
I bet it was.
yeah.
Well,
Alfredo was a Toll.
Alfreda was the oldest, she
She
married
was
a
a Toll.
Toll.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's,
Alfreda was, which Toll was that? And then the next one was, it wasn't Louise, it was, one that buried a bedroom, was it?
It was a Helen or Helene, wasn't it?
Okay, a Vandruff and a, was a
Nope.
relation in there.
There was a bedroom. What was her name? I should know, but. Then the
Wasn't it
third one.
Irene Vandruff?
Oh,
Irene?
I was thinking
No.
Helene maybe, but I don't know, I didn't know.
Your mother
I
used
just
to
knew
talk
of
about that.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
there's
they didn't do anything in the store because.
Louise was the third girl, I think, and she married a jewelry man in Colorado. And then there was a Pauline, and she never got married till later in life. She lived in New York City.
We
And
used
then
to
there was
hear
a
from
Clara.
one of them.
Clara was the
I
youngest.
think Clara's the one
And
we
she
used to
married
hear
a-
from.
Oh,
Some kind of a minister of some kind, I think. I kept my horse there. And I don't know where Pay Lewis kept hers, but she kept hers someplace around there.
right down here. Well, I can tell you, that block where the old station is now and stuff, used to be a house there with a great big yard in the back and a barn.
Yeah, that's what you said, that's where the Pulses lived. You mean where the Derby Cafe is?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
that
in that
area.
block, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
She
Yeah,
always
there
left,
was a
there was
house
a
there.
barn and sitting there,
Yeah.
and then there's a bunch of trees that come around that thing. And she always left her horse there. So I remember, like, when I'd be over at the garage, I'd see her riding that horse to town.
Imagine.
The house set back a ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think they had blue jeans either. I don't either.
That'd be a skirt.
Imagine.
Yes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it was kinda hard for the country kids, they had to go so far.
Oh,
My mother used to go and, she said she had a buggy and a horse named Maudie, and she would hitch the horse up and drive to Wilsonville, and that was like 6.5 miles. And
She was brave.
she'd have a brick that had been heated in the oven, put her feet on and had a, and I just think, boy, she must have really wanted her education, didn't she? That was for high school.
Yeah,
Oh, my God.
I imagine.
But then she'd stay in town maybe all week if the weather was bad or.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what my aunt Harva did too. She kept high school girls
that was after her husband passed away.
after her husband died.
He must have died rather young.
Oh, yeah. Must have, I don't know for sure, but I suppose he had a heart attack or something, I don't know. In fact,
Would you know who bought the store after he passed away?
I think it went to Williams.
Was it Williams' next?
I think the older brothers, Morris. And,
Well, it was a
well, was
B.
it a Gold Rule store was?
yeah,
We
but
talked
I
about
don't
that
know who
last
had
time.
it. It might have been,
Williams Brothers buying the
I'm not
Wagner
sure.
store, you know.
But, they go way back. I mean,
Yeah.
the boy's
That
uncle.
Beatty or Bede.
Yeah, there was a Bede and a, I don't know.
Well, Beaton's back,
Older-
and then
older
their
than that,
uncle,
yeah,
their
back.
uncle,
Mhm.
Morris.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Which one went over to Atwood?
Well, that was their brother, Glenn.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you, have started in with the store down here?
When?
Yeah.
I came to work there the first day of April 1940.
Okay.
I had worked in Holbrook at a store there for 2 years prior to that.
So you were experienced.
Well,
And how much did you make? Do you
When I s-
remember? By the
well,
week
at-
or the,
at Holbrook, I worked for Ben Phillips. And I think it was 12 and a half a week.
okay.
He said it'd be $10 or $12.50 if we have a good week.
Ah, yeah. That was up to you to make it good.
Yeah. And I think when I came down here, I started at $40 or $45 a month.
But
Which
if you
computes
Some of
to
the
less.
prices of the.
Beg pardon?
Which computes to less.
Yeah.
What the prices for eggs and cream and stuff?
Huh?
What the prices for eggs and cream and
Oh,
things?
what
You know, I
was it?
can't remember,
Oh gee, it wasn't much.
not very much. Because, you know, these newspapers that go back even in 67, things were so
Cheap.
so cheap. I often wonder how the store makers made a living then when things were so cheap and you wouldn't make as much on each item. And there were 5 grocery stores in Arapahoe.
I know there were.
No Walmarts though.
So,
Well, Gilbert and, what was that?
I worked just on Saturdays.
At that
at the Equity,
Equity, yeah.
Oh, did you?
Oh, the extra store. I deliver groceries.
You remember the old thing that went up and back and made
Yeah.
the change?
Yeah.
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 People used to
Well, I
just go in
remember
there and
that
watch it.
store because it was still there. Yeah.
Well, I worked there after Miles Lewis closed the cleaning shop. You know, Miles Lewis,
Where was that?
what was that?
Where was that?
I didn't know.
Oh,
you-
that
Yeah, it
cleaning
was
shop?
Cleaning shop was north of, like where Lambles are now.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Or it might have been in the other half of
Well, not in
Cunningham.
the north half of that.
Yeah, half of Cunningham's,
Yes,
Oh,
that's right.
really? Hmm.
Yes,
yeah,
Dry cleaning?
yes.
Yeah, dry cleaning.
Hmm.
yeah.
And then,
Shorty Harrington, Pat Harrington was there first. And then I know they left.
Well, then didn't they go to run the cafe up where
Yes.
the Derby is?
Yes.
Yeah.
these farmers bring in a few roosters or a few hens. You have to weigh them and buy their groceries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had to catch them and weigh them.
No.
Bring them in a
let-
gunny sack.
Then on Saturday night, they'd let the groceries sit till
Yeah.
they went to the
They
show,
go to
the
the
show.
second show.
Go to the show.
When our kids, ready to go to the show, we'd go to the show first, then we'd get our groceries.
That's right.
How much did it cost to go to the show?
Oh,
Quarter
25
probably.
cents probably. I
I
don't
don't know.
I thought it
remember.
was a dime.
Yeah, it
I'd say
wasn't
it wasn't
much.
I don't remember what I got, work, but I remember they took the nickel out for Social Security. I remember that in my head, I don't know why.
Boy, and they've been adding
Even
that
then?
up for quite a while.
Yeah.
My gosh, I didn't know they had social security then.
Started,
Yeah,
I
it
think.
must have been started.
I thought, I don't know, they took a nickel out for something, I don't know what it was.
No, they hadn't started it
They
yet.
hadn't started yet?
No.
When did it start?
I can't tell you
Well,
that.
I don't know. I think it was close to 1940. I'm not sure.
Well, he said it was 40.
Yeah, I think it was close to 1940.
Well,
Was it Roosevelt that
What?
started that? Roosevelt started, didn't he?
Yeah.
it could
Well,
have been,
yes.
it could have been then.
Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be around 1940.
Yeah, that's right. And he
It was
died in
before 40.
44.
I know when he died.
Yeah, April 12th.
I know.
But on the other hand, he
Well,
started
Equity-
before
The
then.
Equity store did a lot
Hoover,
of,
Yeah.
wasn't
delivering
Hoover
over town,
before
too.
Roosevelt then?
Mhm.
they
Hoover.
could deliver groceries over town.
Remember, his motto was
Oh.
a chicken in every
The store
pot.
delivered a lot of groceries
Well,
over
that
yeah.
town.
was Roosevelt, or was it?
Yeah, they had
Hoover?
That was
certain
Hoover.
boxes.
Oh, was
of
it?
carriers on.
Chicken in every pot.
Hold it
Okay,
up.
well, maybe that's when it
Yeah.
I
started.
don't know.
Could be.
I used to
I
go
don't
to
know. I don't
the
either.
bakery,
My
get
mother
bread,
used to talk about that.
Yeah.
or to the, bakery, yeah, I guess the bakery,
Yeah, all starts.
yeah, all
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds German, doesn't it?
Allstats. Mhm. Now, this is a German community.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Well, Eustace was really German.
Mhm. Yes, it's.
Yes.
Mhm.
And they had, it was a big town then too.
Was that?
Had
Well, now,
Gold
Agnes,
Rule and Gallagher's, there was several stores.
Look at Holbrook. I can
And
remember you
Holbrook,
couldn't
yeah.
find a parking space on Saturday
Right.
night.
is that right?
And all the stores were full.
Yes.
And
I
I
know
can-
that, I remember that.
I can remember Walt Scott waiting outside for Marie to get out of work.
No?
That before they were married.
Oh.
I don't know if you know Walt Scott or not.
I don't
I
know.
heard of him, but I didn't know him. I heard of him.
That's what they lived
My
up
mother
there.
came from around
Go up
Holbrook,
there.
and we went there
John
every Saturday
Andrews,
night.
Holbrook?
Oh,
it's a
yes,
different
Who
yeah.
was?
Oh, was
Who
it?
was
Yeah.
your mother?
She was
Yeah,
Stagmar.
that was,
Oh,
She was
well,
raised north
another
of.
Scott.
All right, I remember that.
we need to hear your
Yeah.
story. We need to hear your story. So that's,
Yeah.
shouldn't we hear from Agnes and her story? Do we have time?
Yes, yes.
I don't have
Okay,
any history.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time, otherwise I'm ready for longer.
Oh, are you? Okay. Well, why don't we hear from you then? So
Well-
we can get your
Yeah.
history,
Well,
and then we'll go back
Yeah,
to.
my mother was Stagmar, and my dad was the Schutz. And my
Now, there's
mother
so many
lived-
Stagmars, which one
Oh,
was
she was Fred Stagmar's daughter. And there were, I'd have to count them, there's a lot of brothers, there was a lot, and they had big
she?
families.
Mhm.
There was a Bill Stagmar, that would be,
Owen's dad?
yeah, but then he was my mother's brother.
Oh.
Yeah,
Tweedles?
yeah, he was my mother's brother.
Oh,
And there was a
okay.
Henry and a Louise, she married a Schutz, and she lived around Elwood. And they're all gone now.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, and there was a Fred Stagmar, a young Fred Stagmar too, lived around Holbrook.
So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers and no sisters. My oldest brother was Bernard, and he's
Mhm.
passed on.
Mhm.
And my youngest brother lives in Lincoln. He worked for the University of Nebraska, now he's retired, so.
How many tickets did you get?
Oh, not many. We could if we wanted them, yeah. Yeah, they always had a seat. And they have 3 girls, and they're married and live in Lincoln too, so. And they just recently celebrated their 50th anniversary.
Oh, I see.
So
How about
he's-
you guys? How many?
We have celebrated 65 last April. Oh, yeah, it's 65.
Well, how about you, Jack?
And we live to tell about it.
Yeah.
You're longer, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
66
uh-huh,
last
Oh.
April.
yeah.
That's wonderful. Just wonderful.
That was Sandy's boy was born on our 25th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Shane was born. Now he has two boys.
Yeah. And where's he living?
St. Petersburg, Florida.
Wow.
But we are awaiting the birth of our 11th great-grandchild,
Oh, God.
Who will be
Stephanie.
Yeah,
She
Stephanie Davis.
is bedfast.
Oh, is she now?
yeah.
Yeah,
Is who?
Stephanie.
Stephanie,
Oh, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Well, we just had a new granddaughter.
You did?
Fran had a
Oh,
baby
she
girl.
did? Oh, I didn't hear that. How wonderful.
So,
There's
Fran
great-grandma
Yeah.
over there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do they live?
in Lincoln,
Okay.
yeah. And so that makes 14
Oh, my, that's wonderful.
great grandson.
Jeez.
And so,
That's great.
She has you beat, I think.
Pardon me?
She has you beat, doesn't
Oh,
she?
yeah.
You have
I
one?
know. Two. is all
Two
we have.
now?
We're not a big
how
family.
about you, Lou?
No, I don't have any, I have
No
2
great-
grandsons and they're just,
They're
they're
not-
young, 13 and
Oh.
15, so.
Mhm. Give them
yeah,
time.
Oh, yeah. I want a little granddaughter, or great-granddaughter, maybe someday.
Oh, they're nice.
Yes, they are.
Now, you mentioned something about, Orfino, did you live up around there?
No, we were south of Eustis, about 13 miles. Our final is up, well, let's see, how would you say? brother, when he was first married, he lived on a farm about a mile from Arapahoe,
Yeah.
and we used to go out there. But the last time I was out that way, I couldn't even see the town anymore. I didn't.
All left's the cemetery.
Is there, yeah.
There's a
uh-huh,
cemetery up there, but
Yeah.
that's all's left in there.
It's
Yeah.
about like Moorfield.
Yes,
Oh, is Moorfield about gone too?
it's just about
Yeah.
gone,
Oh. Well, and Stockville was our county seat,
yeah.
Oh,
and the courthouse is still there,
yes, it is.
and they've added on a little bit.
Yeah.
And made it
They
simple.
do have a lot of fair, stuff for their fair, activities there.
They're
They do
having-
a lot
yeah.
of pins, a lot of stuff for the fair.
It's on this week, isn't it?
It's on this, I think it's on
Today,
this
but-
coming week,
Or is that, anyway, they're advertising.
yeah.
Well, do they sell windmills there too?
I
Not
don't
in
know.
Texas.
I don't know. They might.
I thought
I
that-
don't know.
Well, when we went to Stockville to get our license to get married, they had to dust the books off first.
Well,
Is that right?
Now, why?
I
yeah,
don't know, it's never been used, I guess.
they must not had very many.
Oh, okay.
Well,
You were,
there
it
was
wasn't a dust bowl, was it? What year
No.
did you get married?
Well,
I can't see.
42.
42? Okay, that was passed by that time.
Yeah,
wasn't
oh
it?
yeah, it was a good year, but, yeah, and Frontier County was very well populated at one time. Really was, especially the area where I lived, but now it's about everybody gone.
She had, her folks, where they lived, had 3-4 neighbors, they're all gone.
Yeah, they all live within shouting
Oh, no.
distance about.
Nobody farms,
No.
nobody farms anymore.
I know what's gonna happen.
How far away from the church up there were you?
Oh, about 3 miles.
3
We were
miles
west of the church.
west of the church?
Mhm.
Okay, on
The
the north side of the
cemetery's
road.
there yet. No, we were on the south side, right on the highway.
Oh, were you?
Mhm.
Okay.
And so,
You know, Tom got hailed the other day?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
He did? Right
Oh.
out here? Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
about 300 acres, right?
300?
Yeah, he farms, part of Jerry Schroeder's land there, too, right next to
it's
it,
just across the lane from
across the lane. Yeah.
And they
oh,
all got that?
Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
it looked terrible.
I remember
That's worse
the
than
one.
the deer.
The deer.
Yes. You always said it took 25 acres of corn for those deer.
Yeah.
Took more than that for that.
Well,
Yeah,
he had quite a bit of soybeans planted.
Oh,
He had about half of our
I
farm
believe
of soybeans is about a half of Jerry's is
oh,
soybeans.
Louise,
I
not
see.
your way.
Yeah.
no, you're not in my way,
Soybeans
or
are
I'm not in your way.
Yeah.
This is serving water, and I have a cookie.
Oh,
I'm not making
don't need
anything else.
anything.
Juster was out today. He had inhaler shirt all part of it.
How much does hail insurance cost?
Quite a bit.
They don't
I
give it
guess.
away.
Especially on bees, I think. I don't know.
Do they?
He never told me what it cost.
Well, I
He didn't have any hail on ours. But it's,
Yes, he did.
not hail
No,
insurance.
but I needed to,
Crop
I
insurance?
guess we
It's
always
got federal
need
crop
water.
insurance.
Yeah.
Federal crop insurance. But you know, with federal crop insurance,
I'm
no,
gonna start with you
wait and
guys.
see.
Oh,
Wait and
my
see.
goodness. if
Yes.
you should-
Go ahead and
oh,
fertilize,
my
go
goodness,
ahead
those look
and
lovely.
irrigate.
You don't get paid anything yet, do you?
No,
I know.
Can I
Oh,
handle
sure.
it?
Gotta wait.
see what it does. We were out there, that hailed on Thursday. We were out there on, was it Monday?
You got a place to put your
Yeah.
tea?
And it's
water
worse
running?
down towards the river.
That's
Okay.
all right,
Those soybeans were just stumps.
There?
Right.
Or where?
Soybeans up by the house.
that's fine.
Talked to him today, he said the adjuster was out today and he said, irrigate them, take care of them,
Oh,
we'll see what happens.
is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But he says they're starting to, if you go out in the field and look, they're starting to grow out.
hmm.
The leaves are starting to come.
Wouldn't that be
Well,
something if it works?
But it's
Yeah.
gonna be
It'll
late.
be fine if it
Yeah,
don't
it'll
have
be
a
late.
frost,
Yeah.
that'd be the thing.
It
It
takes-
might, you never know.
Takes a while for them now to grow the bush and then to bloom and then put on pods.
But they probably wanna see what's gonna happen then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
you can,
So they can report.
you have to harvest it too. If there's anything there, you have to harvest it
Yeah.
and see.
Yeah,
They won't pay you 100%
no.
till they have to.
Yeah.
Well, at least it gets it
Company's
business
out.
paid, maybe. Yeah, you know, it took in, well, Herbert Warner claims he had chunks of ice, I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
Well, they could see
But it started right
piles of
there,
it laying along the road.
and it didn't affect Lyle Friday, on the other side of the creek, it didn't hail in.
Didn't hail there.